I found out my younger sister was sent away to a religious camp for being a lesbian by my evangelical parents, who lied to me about needing my money for a life-threatening surgery to fund it, and I am furious. Posted by you/very upset 222. I posted a thing here 2 years ago that helped me with an uncomfortable situation involving a boss at work, and it helped me save a good friendship and my job, so hopefully you guys can help me again with a much more serious situation. I didn't remember that account, so I made a new one. I need to give a little background to explain the situation. This will probably be long. I'm crappy at writing, so please bear with me. I work as a computer engineer and live away from my parents. I moved out when I was 18, not because we had a particularly distant relationship, but because I was very hungry for independence and didn't want to go to college like they wanted me to. I fell in love with programming and got a job a month after I graduated, and I've done that since. I am extremely frugal, and I now make about $70,000 a year after taxes. Go Mr. Money Mustache. Both my parents are in traditional white-collar jobs that make significantly more money than I do, and they are horrific with money. When I was growing up, my parents were semi-religious, church on Easter and Christmas type of deal, and not particularly invested in it or politics. Somewhere in the last 3 or 4 years, they became interested in it, and in the last year in particular, especially regarding the last election, they have become some of the most religious and over-focused political people I've ever seen. I have tried distancing myself from this by refusing to talk about these issues over the phone at all. I could not disagree more with them. I think they have some very hateful views, but I've chosen not to engage them on it. Growing up, I was not close to my younger sister, mainly because of our age gap. However, she has grown up and is very pleasant to speak to. We have spoken on the phone daily. I speak to mom and dad much less frequently, since she was around 14. I have not been exposed to too much of this because I intentionally tell both sides I don't want to talk about their drama, although I am generally clear with my sister that I agree with her, but I don't want to badmouth our parents. My sister is a lesbian, which I have no issue with whatsoever, and my parents do not, or did not, know and would immediately be against. We talked about this quite often. My sister also has political views completely at odds with my parents. She was in trouble for not supporting their favorite political candidate, you can probably guess who, but I encouraged her to swallow it and suck it up at home for her safety and sanity. She mentioned a few times in the last 2 months wanting to come out to them, and I highly discouraged it. I have heard both of my parents approve of a pastor who disowned his gay son and similar stories. I didn't want them to do that to her. I have offered to let her live with me when she turns 18, but I imagine that being in the future. I made her promise not to do that, and she did. On her 16th birthday, she came out to them. I was a little angry with her over the phone. I didn't curse or scream or anything, but I was annoyed, with sympathy for her position. I did chide her a bit, which I acknowledge was dumb. She was extremely mad at me and didn't call me for 4 days, which was a long time for us not to speak. We spoke afterward, and I was much better, but things weren't going well. They didn't kick her out but weren't speaking to her at all. Literally, she was screaming at them and they just quietly went into their rooms, not saying a word. I offered to speak to them for her, and she begged me not to, so I did not, against my better judgment. My dad, a week later, called me over the phone. He said that he was sick and needed emergency money to have a procedure. He begged me not to tell mom or my sister. He needed about $20,000. I had refused them money in the past for a car loan and made it clear that I wasn't giving them money, but I did for this, cautious but ultimately trusting him not to lie about his own potential death. I disagreed with him about a lot of things, but he had always been so steadfast about the importance of honesty. The thought of him lying about something like that seemed ridiculous, and I felt guilty for even thinking that. About another week after that, my sister stopped calling me. I thought she was mad again for some reason, but she didn't answer at all. I was worried. I called my parents and asked about her after about a week, and they said she was being moody. I thought they believed I didn't know about her sexuality or what was going on. I checked my Facebook that night and read a days-old message from one of her friends that explained she had been trying to reach me and that my sister was taken from her house into a van and driven off by men in a program, with her and my parents there, before kicking the friend out of the house. Her friend visited my parents' house several times, and they eventually told her they sent her to a religious program. She didn't get the name. I called up my father, and he denied it twice before admitting it after a long talk. I was so angry. They seriously have these religious camps that parents can send teens to any time without committing a crime, forever. I didn't think it had anything to do with the money, but I looked it up after that and found out that these programs are generally very expensive. I called him up again, and he admitted that's where the money went. I demanded that he let her out, and he told me it was his money. I told him I'd never speak to him again, and he just ignored me. I've tried calling him up every few hours for the last several days since I found out, and they ignore almost all of my calls. He intentionally didn't tell me the name of the facility or camp, but I've done some reading, and these are almost always dangerous places. I don't even know if she is in the US anymore. People die and get brainwashed at these places. I feel so guilty for giving them the ability to do this. I don't know the name of the camp, and I did technically give them the money. My only recourse at this point is to go tell everyone in their neighborhood what they did. I saw a Facebook post they made about sending my sister to a snooty Christian boarding school, and that is not what they did. I called the school they posted, and she isn't going there. They are very connected to the church/suburban town community, and I think it would threaten them to have their image splattered with the truth. I would completely disown them now if it wouldn't completely destroy my chances of getting her out. I am at a loss. Please help me. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. This is very, very difficult. Under the law in most of the US, and most of the world, parents have a right to decide how to raise their minor children. There are some facilities for brainwashing people out of being gay that are so horrific I have little better terms to describe them than torture. In fact, a couple of US states have actually passed laws against these places, but that doesn't help much because parents have a right to send their children to someplace else that doesn't have such a restriction. There is very little you can do about it, legally. On the other hand, there is a major legal issue where you do have leverage. From your description, it sounds like there is a plausible argument that your father committed fraud to scam you out of $20,000. If you pursued this, there is a decent chance that you could get law enforcement involved, and it is not impossible that your father could be convicted of a felony for such a fraud. You certainly could sue to get the money back, and could probably get a judgment to garnish his wages, seize his bank accounts, and so forth until you had been repaid. The most obvious thing to do would be, Dad, pull my sister out of that program and either let her live with you unmolested or else send her to live with me. If you don't, then I'll press charges and get you thrown in prison for fraud. Don't do that, because that would be blackmail. At least, I think it would, depending on the exact wording. With a very careful approach, it may be possible, depending on the exact details of the laws on blackmail in your state, which I do not know well enough to advise you on, to get that same message across without actually committing blackmail. If I were to do such a thing, I would probably find a lawyer who could help me figure out how to use this without committing a felony of your own. Because if I understand you correctly, you are not happy about the $20,000, but your real concern is for your sister. My heart goes out to you, and her, and I wish you the best of fortune and a successful outcome. Ops response. It's worth mentioning that I do have 2 texts from him mentioning the need for money for the emergency, and a short voicemail of him thanking me for the money. I don't know whether that would constitute proof or not, but I assume so. I would assume that he wouldn't be able to get a refund for the money anyway, and therefore be unable to have the financial stuff get her out quicker without going the quasi-blackmail route, so I don't know. Thank you very much. Commenter 2. I have a very strong feeling that you should just look for a lawyer, because nothing that we recommend should be taken into consideration due to the serious nature of the situation. Find a lawyer to discuss if there is any way to gain custody of your sister. Then talk to a GSA of some sort and find out what type of trauma she might end up dealing with and what to do if you get her, because who knows what they could be doing to her. Update 2 days later. I got an incredible amount of varying advice and support that I really appreciate. I explained the situation to my boss, who was very supportive and gave me some time off without an issue to deal with this. Last night, I left home and drove to them. They live in another part of Florida, but we all live here, and tried having a rational conversation with them before I took any further steps. I pointed out the abuse I was learning regularly occurs at these communities. I told them everything I'd learned about these places. I demonstrated that it wouldn't even change her sexuality or opinions, and they just called me a liar or ignored me. I have never seen my parents in a lower regard. I didn't even bring up the money because I had a feeling that if I mentioned it, he would kick me out. Both of them seemed incredibly nonchalant about the entire thing. Then I made an appointment with a lawyer, and later another. Both of them were LGBT friendly and had at least some experience with similar situations, and both spent about an hour explaining to me how I am completely legally screwed due to the nature of the gift, and how it won't be interpreted as conditional, and that I have absolutely zero legal grounds for getting my sister out. And that, without even the name of the place, I can literally do nothing. I am completely screwed. One drilled into me that I should not post about this to their friends or it may make any legal action that could be possible later impossible. But both basically told me there wasn't a thing to be done. I was at my wit's end, and I had a last-ditch plan. I drove back to my father's home and told him I would give him my remaining savings, around $65,000, but I lied and said $55,000 so I'd have something, if he took her out of the camp and let her live with me. I was amazed that he would even consider it because I always considered him such a high moral figure, but he stepped into the room with my mother for 5 minutes and said yes, but only if I did not involve the police. I told him he would need to sign a contract and wait a few days, and he told me he may not have an issue with that, needs to think, but did not want her legally in my name, but she can live with me, because he doesn't want to be on the hook for child support. I wanted to spit in his face, but I refrained. This just happened less than an hour ago. I made another appointment with another attorney tomorrow, but I don't think this is possible, and I may not show up to his office. If I give him the money without any obligation to return it, he would just take it and do nothing. My idea at the moment is to agree to give them the money without a contract as soon as she is out and back at the house and I see her, and then take her and move to another state with her until she graduates. I can keep working in my current job online until I get a new one. My father basically gave the impression that he had completely disowned her anyway, and I don't think he would spend the money a second time to get her into another place, but obviously, I'm just guessing. Obviously, I cannot have a legal contract written where I buy custody of a minor. Can I have one where they promise not to send her to another institution like that? Like, she must go to and graduate from X high school, or something like that, or you must return the money? Is there anything I can do to make this work in a way where she is out and with me, whether in my name with custody or not, and they don't have legal grounds to come and track us down and send her somewhere else? This sounds insane, but I am insane. I'm so worried. I'm vomiting randomly from guilt and stress. I can't sleep, so I'm going to down a few sleeping pills so I can go to bed. Thank you very much. You have helped me immensely. It's disgusting how much the legal system can screw over innocent teens. I've never felt more angry during a 4th of July in my life. I don't know how we can profess freedom when stuff like this still happens and is legally justifiable. Edit, we met, and he detailed to me how I can easily go to jail with my plan, and just how dumb it is. I'm not giving them any money. But he made it clear that I have no legal recourse to get her. There is nothing I can do legally that will go anywhere. He advised me to try and settle this from a civil perspective. They won't listen to reason. I have never hated anyone more than them. I feel like I fell into a black hole. I don't see any way out. Second update 25 days later. This will be a short update, but the situation with my sister has ended on a positive note. It has been resolved. I think the mods will remove this, but anyone who wants to know what happened will be able to see. Currently, I am in the hospital. I initially thought I had a bad flu from stress following the incident, but I wasn't getting better. Yesterday, I went to the doctor. She ordered me to the hospital for a spinal tap, and it turns out I actually contracted bacterial meningitis, so I'm not doing so well in that regard. I'm bored and feeling like garbage, but I have free time, and I've been meaning to write because this was just resolved. If this isn't entirely coherent, I apologize, my brain is obviously a bit fried right now. This is going to be horribly shortened. I did not give my father any money, and we both basically ended up pretending that I never offered the money and that he never theoretically accepted it. I found out the camp she was staying in, my mother frequently needs computer help, and it was one of the terribly described religious therapy camps several states away. I found several horror stories online from people who had attended this camp, and I showed them to mom and dad. I also found a sympathetic religious figure from the community they both respected, and I convinced them, after much struggling, to go pick her up with me. We did, and we ended up flying there and picking her up with a lot of trouble. They didn't want to let me in at all and took an extremely long time to let her see us, which made my parents very, very mad. My parents were very upset about the small parts of the facility we were allowed to see. They told us our sister would lie and that we should go without seeing her, which made them even madder. I thought we were going to have to call the police. But we eventually got her out after many hours spent there. I was nervous she would yell at them, but she knew to pretend she had changed without me needing to tell her. She is back home as of several days ago. I've been in the hospital since yesterday. My parents are basically pretending they were tricked into thinking the place was a 4-star resort and are laughing the whole thing off, like they're equal victims in this. Like this was all just a wacky adventure where they stole my money and sent my sister to an abusive gay prison. My sister and I have discussed it privately and agreed that she will not make any waves until she turns 18, and then she can live with me during college. Sadly, we still have 2 years until then. I despise my parents and cannot say a thing to them, which is infuriating. I hate their hypocrisy and BS, but we both have to swallow it for the moment. I am finished with them completely and plan never to speak to them again after she turns 18. To SM, I lost your phone number, but I will email you again when I'm out of the hospital, which may be a while. To Kathy, thank you for the advice, you are the nicest person I've ever met. This is written badly, but it's taken me forever and I can't really think straight to write right now. This is definitely missing info, but those are the main points. Thank you for all the advice, it has helped me get through the worst month of my life. /relevant comments. Commenter. Well, that could have ended way worse. One of my favorite, and darkest, The Onion article titles is, Gay Conversion Therapists Claim Most Patients Fully Straight by the Time They Commit Suicide. Edit, contrary to what my Reddit comments may suggest, I used to lie and pretend to be out on old posts because pretending to be out felt like such progress and freedom. I hadn't come out to my family when I wrote this. I am gay. It was painful and terrifying for me to come out to my 100% loving and supportive family, who I was pretty sure would be loving and supportive. I can't imagine the pain of coming out only to find that you weren't accepted for who you were. That, rather than your anxiety and self-loathing being dismissed as nonsense, it was to be reinforced. If anyone out there feels ambivalent about this subject, I hope you read my message and understand how important your attitude is, because the odds that someone in your family will endure this aren't that low. Editor's note. Op has not made another post since his last update, dated 2017, so it has been 8 years. His sister is well past 18 now, and hopefully, they are both doing fine.